Hey, MJ here, and a couple of weeks ago I posted a video about how I end my art. Well, here is how I begin my art. I'm out here with Miss Layla Lou. Loki is off running around, but I came across this old tree that's now covered in moss, and when I saw it, I thought, wow, that would be the perfect place for a fairy to live. And looks like there's a little building there too. And you can see like the branch sticking out reminded me of a chimney stack. And there's like a little place to sit up and watch over the land. Anyway, this is how it starts. It starts with me walking around and finding something kind of cool that inspires me to see it in a different way. Like I've walked by this before and I don't know why, but I saw it as a bug. Like that looks like one of the arms. This old tree stump that reminds me of a bug. Anyway, this is the start, and I'll show you how it transforms into my art as it progresses. Anyway, bye for now. Okay, now I'm home and I can use this image when I'm ready. But for now, I'm working on the full card. So I went back through my photos and I found this rock. You can see there's brush back there. And I decided to take this rock and use it as a cliff. So my deck that I'm working on is one where it's not quite a fairy deck, it's more like a wee folk deck. And so I took that rock and I cut it out, kept some of the green. You can see it's duplicated here. I copied and pasted a portion of that background in which this is all gonna be added to anyway. There'll be flowers that come up. And so I had an image of a stock image of a woman, but this deck, for this idea for this deck, I envision them to be more like shadows, because when I'm walking through the woods, sometimes I sense like shadows, you know? And so my version of wee folk are that they're more shadowy figures. So this is going to be the full card. And so I created her dress and her hair, and I'm still working on her to kind of draw her out. And then have this bee in here that I just put in, I drew in. And so each of these are on separate layers. Like you can see there's the background. Here's one of the background pieces. And so this is how it starts. It starts with a trip out into the woods, and then I pull together different elements and I kind of let the story unfold in my mind. So I have her reaching out to this bee, and I don't know where it's gonna go from here. This is like the absolute beginning of the deck. This is like, and it might even change from here, who knows? But this is usually how the process begins. It starts with seeing something out in the woods, or seeing something at the beach, or seeing something somewhere, and feeling a hint of inspiration, taking a picture of it, bringing it, carrying it home on my phone, and opening up the file, and then looking at it and seeing where I can transform it. So yeah, all right, that's part 2. So I'll talk with you later. Bye. Okay, so now that I have my figure on this rock and she's reaching out for the bee, I put in some flowers here. I just want to show you, I got a set of brushes. I got a new set. This is a watercolor set, and that's one of the things I really love about working in this format, opposed to with paper and pen or paper and paint. I can explore all these different brushes, and it's a simple download to get the brushes. It might cost, $20, and you get, a whole slew of brushes. Whereas if I go to Utrecht or Pearl or a paint store, it's going to cost hundreds of dollars. So one of the advantages as an artist, when you work with a digital format, is having a ton of resources at your disposal. And so what I do here is I created another layer. I like to work in layers so that when I do something, if I'm not quite happy, or I kind of want to test out some new brush, or I want to test out a new technique, I'm not necessarily impacting anything that I've already worked on that I'm happy with. So here we have this, and I kind of want to see what this Add Paper Texture brush looks like. And so, it's kind of hard to tell because the layer needs to have a solid background. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Alrighty, let's try this again. So, brush. All right, this is watercolor paper. And you can see it's giving a texture there. When you go over it, it gives it more texture. Now there are other brushes too, where this one, and you'll see like it gives it a different look. So right now I'm just sort of experimenting and playing with these brushes and seeing how they work. And what's really interesting here is, so if you, the screen is really sensitive. So if I'm just sort of lightly pressing down with the pen, it gives a totally different look than when I really push down. It's so responsive. It's like, that is a thing about working on this Wacom tablet, that it really does mimic if you're working with a pen or if you're working with a brush. Like the more pressure you give, it gives it a different look. So anyway, I'm just gonna play around and see how these brushes react. Might see, like, so this is, I'm adding white, and as you can see, white does not go over this orange, just like if it was real paint. Let's see here, a real watercolor, I should say. Here's a green. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, this is gonna be a lot of fun. So anyway, that's just a look at how the process is. It's, nothing is immediate when I'm making my artwork. It's not like, I have an idea and I just get right to it and create it from start to finish. There's a lot of playing around and testing out different colors and brushes and seeing how they can add, what do they contribute to the card, aesthetically speaking, what do they contribute, and it's a lot of play. So anyway, so last spring, or maybe it was summer, I'm trying to think when these started to show up. It was closer to summer. All these daisies just exploded in the front portion of the property that we were renting. So I went outside, took some photos, and this doesn't give you an idea of scale. These are huge. They're so tall. I mean, if you were like a child, you would lose yourself in these daisies. So here, I already created a line to cut them out, and I'm going to copy and then go over to my card that I've been kind of playing around with, and I'm gonna paste. And you can see they're like too big here, way too big, way too big. So I'm gonna go over here and change the size. Okay, and then I lost them. Where did you go? There we are. Okay, so this is how I add elements. And I'll just play around with this for a while. I'll look at it, I'll be like, do I like it? What can I do to make this feel like it's part of this story? And so that's another stage of creating the card. So, all right, I'm gonna move on to this and then I'll show you what happens next. Last summer, up until I think September, the foxes were coming around our house pretty regularly. So I was able to get a lot of good photos. There's Rosa, there is Carol. Look at that, oh, look at her face. Isn't she just beautiful? That's all Carol. There is our sweet Siobhan. And then up here, that was Johan. Look at him, such a little goofball. So, because for my card that I'm working on, I decided to go with this picture of Carol, and you saw I already clipped the path around her head, And so now I'm going to go back to my card where I added a robin, and I'm really just at this point just sort of playing around. Where's paste? Okay, paste. And so here I'm just kind of seeing where I might want to put Carol's face on the card, and it might end up being like very small. It might end up being like just like something that you just notice like way off in the distance, like maybe behind these flowers. I don't know yet. I'm still sort of playing around, but that just kind of gives you an idea of how all the elements come together. All right, till the next time. Okay, continuing on with this Fool card that I've been playing around with now for several days. I decided, I had another picture of Carol that I liked, but I'm not sure. So I'm kind of holding off on how I'm going to incorporate Carol into this card. But what I did do, and this is one of the things that I really appreciate with digital artwork, is that it allows me some flexibility and testing out certain things and seeing where it might lead without destroying all of the work that I've done thus far. So what I did was I copied all of the layers that I have already on this piece, and then I merged them together into a single layer, and then I applied a glow filter. And when I saw this glow filter, I thought, oh, it reminded me of the night vision cameras that I have out in the woods, and how things might look with the night vision camera. So this effect wouldn't have happened without all of those individual layers, without all the individual working that went into this card. So I'm kind of digging this, and I'm going to play around with this idea of the night vision, because it gives a little bit more mystery. You know, something you might not see during the day, but what's lurking in the woods at night, what you might find at night. So anyway, continuing on with the Fool card. It's quite the adventure.